The Galactic Council had been searching for 300 years. 300 long years of failure, disappointment, and broken hope. The Void Eaters were coming, and no species in the known universe could stop them. Commander stood in the observation deck of the massive space station called the Crucible. His four eyes watched the latest batch of warrior candidates enter the testing chamber below. These were the strongest fighters from 12 different star systems, champions of their worlds, legends among their people. And like all the others before them, they would fail. The Crucible was built for one purpose only. It was designed to find someone worthy of bonding with the prototype. The ancient weapon had been discovered floating in dead space near the edge of the galaxy. Scientists believed it was created by the first ones, a civilization that existed before the stars themselves were born. The prototype was not just a weapon. It was alive. It chose its own master. And in 3 centuries of testing, it had rejected every single warrior who tried to claim it. The testing chamber was a white room with walls that could shift and change. In the center sat the prototype on a simple metal stand. It looked like a sphere of liquid metal, constantly moving and changing shape. Sometimes it formed spikes. Sometimes it became smooth like water. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The first warrior stepped forward. His name was, and he belonged to the species. There were massive creatures, standing over 3 meters tall with skin like stone, had killed 1,000 enemies in battle. He feared nothing in the universe. He reached for the prototype. The moment his fingers touched the metal surface, screamed. The prototype glowed red, an invisible force threw him across the room. He crashed into the wall and fell unconscious. Medical teams rushed in to carry him away. Commander sighed. He had seen this happen countless times before. The second warrior tried. She was a species known for their speed and deadly claws. The prototype rejected her before she could even make contact. She flew backward and hit the ground hard. One by one, the greatest warriors of the galaxy approached the prototype. One by one, they were thrown away like garbage. Some were knocked unconscious. Others were left crying in pain. A few simply stood frozen, unable to move, as if the prototype was looking into their souls and finding them unworthy. By the end of the session, 47 warriors had been rejected. The council members watching from the viewing gallery started to leave. They had seen enough. Hope was dying in their hearts. Then the door to the testing chamber opened one more time. A single figure walked in. It was small compared to most species in the room. It stood only about 1.8 meters tall. Its skin was soft and brown. It had only 2 eyes, 2 arms, and 2 legs. It wore simple gray clothing with no armor or weapons. Commander leaned forward. He had never seen this species before. One of his officers checked the database. The species was called human. They came from a small planet called Earth in an unremarkable solar system. They had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. They were new to the galactic community. They were young. They were weak. They were nobody special. The human walked to the center of the room without hesitation. His name was Cole, and he was 32 years old. Back on Earth, he had been a soldier. He had fought in wars. He had seen friends die. He had killed enemies and saved innocent lives. He was not the strongest or the fastest. He was just a man who refused to give up. Stopped in front of the prototype, he could feel something strange coming from it. It was like the metal sphere was watching him, studying him, waiting to see what he would do. The other species in the viewing gallery laughed. Some of them had never even heard of humans before. They thought this was a joke. Why would this small, fragile creature think he could succeed where the mightiest warriors had failed? Did not care about their laughter. He had heard laughter before. He had been underestimated his entire life. That was fine with him. He would let his actions speak louder than their words. He reached out his hand slowly. His fingers touched the surface of the prototype. The room went silent. The prototype did not throw him away. It did not glow red. Instead, it began to glow with a soft blue light. The liquid metal started to move up his arm like a living creature. It wrapped around his body, covering him completely in seconds. Commander jumped to his feet. In 300 years of testing, he had never seen this happen. The prototype was accepting someone. The prototype was bonding with the human. Felt the metal merge with his skin. It did not hurt. It felt warm and safe, like being wrapped in a blanket on a cold night. He could hear a voice in his mind. It was the prototype speaking to him. The voice said that it had been waiting. It had tested millions of warriors from thousands of species. They were all strong. They were all skilled, but they were missing something important. They fought for glory. They fought for power. They fought for themselves. Was different. The prototype could see his memories. It saw him carrying wounded soldiers to safety while enemies fired at him. It saw him giving his last food to hungry children during a war. It saw him crying over the bodies of people he could not save. It saw him fighting not because he enjoyed killing, but because he wanted to protect those who could not protect themselves. This was why the prototype chose him. It was not looking for the strongest warrior. It was looking for the heart. The metal armor finished forming around. He now stood covered in a suit of living technology that glowed with blue light. He could feel power flowing through his body. He was faster, stronger, and tougher than before. But more than that, he could feel the prototype's knowledge in his mind. It showed him how to use its abilities. It showed him the truth about the Void Eaters and how to defeat them. Commander rushed down to the testing chamber. His hands were shaking as he approached the human. He had waited his entire life for this moment. Looked at the commander with calm eyes. The armor around his face pulled back so he could speak clearly. He told the commander that he understood the situation. The Void Eaters were coming. They destroyed entire galaxies. They could not be stopped by normal weapons. But the prototype was not a normal weapon. It was the key to victory. The council held an emergency meeting that night. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss what had happened. Many of them were angry. They demanded to know why a human had been allowed to participate in the testing. Humans were newcomers. Humans were weak. Humans had no right to wield the most powerful weapon in the universe. Stood before them without fear. He told them that he did not ask for this power. The prototype chose him. If they did not like it, they could take the matter up with the ancient weapon itself. Some council members tried to force to give up the prototype. They sent their best soldiers to take it from him. The prototype protected its host. Every attack was blocked. Every weapon was deflected. The soldiers were gently but firmly pushed away without being harmed. Told the council that he would not use this power for conquest. He would not use it to make himself rich or famous. He only wanted to stop the Void Eaters and save innocent lives. If they could not accept that, then he would fight the enemy alone. His words silenced the chamber. The council members looked at each other. They had no choice. The Void Eaters were coming, and this human was their only hope. Commander stepped forward and knelt before. He pledged his loyalty and his fleet to the human warrior. Other commanders followed. Soon, the entire council was standing in support of Cole, the first and only prototype user in history. Training began immediately. Spent months learning to control his new abilities. The prototype could change shape into any weapon he imagined. It could create shields strong enough to block starship cannons. It could let him survive in the vacuum of space. It could heal his wounds almost instantly. The more he trained, the stronger their bond became. But knew that power alone was not enough. He needed an army. He needed allies. He traveled to dozens of worlds, meeting with leaders and warriors. He did not demand their loyalty. He earned it. He helped defend colonies from space pirates. He saved mining ships from asteroid storms. He mediated peace between species that had been at war for centuries. Slowly, the galaxy began to see humans differently. They were not weak. They were determined. They were compassionate. They cared about others even when there was nothing to gain. More and more species pledged their support to the human and his cause. 1 year after the bonding, received word that the Void Eaters had entered the galaxy. They were destroying everything in their path. Billions of lives were already lost. The time for preparation was over. The time for war had arrived. Stood on the bridge of the flagship looking out at the assembled fleet. Thousands of warships from dozens of species waited for his command. The prototype armor covered his body, glowing brighter than ever before. In his heart, he felt no fear. He felt only purpose. He gave the order to advance. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward the first battle of what would become known as the Origin War. No one knew if they would survive. No one knew if they could win. But they knew one thing for certain. They were no longer fighting alone. The prototype had searched the galaxy for 300 years. It had rejected every warrior who sought to claim it. But in the end, it found something it never expected to find. It found coal. It found humanity. And together they would either save the universe or die trying. There was no third option. There was no turning back. The origin of a new age had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the human led the charge into the darkness. Whatever happened next would be remembered for eternity. This was the moment everything changed. This was prototype Origin.